It was better than Lego. It was better than Lego. It was better than Lego.
Good evening and welcome to Better Than Lego. My name is Mike Keating. I welcome you tonight, and with me tonight is Geoff Foster. Good evening, Geoff.
Good evening, Mike.
We're going to talk tonight about the NRL Grand Final, which finished with the Penrith Panthers finally closing off Nathan Cleary's empty trophy cabinet. Sorry, not Nathan Cleary, Ivan Cleary's empty trophy cabinet with a hard-fought win over South in what was a very tight, very close, hotly contested Grand Final that literally did come down to the final minutes of the game. It was it was a classic in terms of Grand Finals. It wasn't a classic in terms of Open Rugby, but in terms of the tightness of Grand Final play, seizing every opportunity that you get, which was kind of summed up by, I think it was like 6 line breaks. 6 line breaks in total throughout the whole game. What do you think of the game, Geoff?
I don't want to use. I could use the word anticlimax. It wasn't an anticlimax, but I didn't think it. I didn't think the tension was as high as what we saw for the previous. For the semi. It looked to me like there were 2 nervous sides out there. Who really were trying their best not to lose the game rather than going out to win it, which is understandable, really, because Penrith were in danger of getting a bit of a monkey on the back if they'd have folded in this game. They had to just grind out a victory by any means necessary. I think they did that. They followed the game plan to perfection, and Souths just really, they lacked a little bit of forward power and a little bit of direction at times as well, and a little bit of adventure, but a very tight game,
Yeah.
But you got to credit both sides because they both. There's no shortage of effort. It wasn't an effort. There wasn't any kind of effort shortfall, but maybe a little bit of imagination. But like I said, the pressure, the tension, it gets through. It gets even the best players.
Yeah, well, one of the things that Cleary said, as in Nathan Cleary had said leading up to the Grand Final, is that they couldn't make the same mistakes that they made last year in terms of they wanted to make sure that we'll use the word process because that's what we like to use, isn't it? But to keep with the processes and make sure that they don't fall behind early as they did last year. They're 20 odd points down, weren't they, before half time?
Yeah.
Which killed them off, and I think that probably, I wouldn't say stifled Penrith's play, but kept it fairly conservative, which we kind of see anyway, don't we? I mean, even the semi-finals, although they were tense, they were still fairly conservative affairs, weren't they? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, what was your thoughts on the first half? Because to me, watching it was very much Penrith's game, and we'll probably talk about this when we look a bit more in depth about it with, the Souths coming off their own line. But Cody Walker's try was a bit of a lifeline, and it came against the run of play, really, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and I do feel a bit sorry for the lad because if you read the newspapers and watch the TV, they make it sound like he just gave the game away, which he didn't really. Look, it was only a score. Scores come at a premium in big games like this, but good sides shouldn't be too bothered about being a score down.
Yeah.
If you're a score down going into the final 15-20 minutes, you're in the game. You're in the game.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying heads dropped, but I think that they were kind of. It's never a good thing to see a kind of talismanic player, suffer a bit of a reversal. And if it did kind of do one thing, I thought he kind of not retreated into his shell, but it made him a little bit more careful about what he was doing. But like I said, the game wasn't over. All it needed was a bit of nerve and just, instead of trying to win the game, just play out your set, play out. You get a chance. You get a chance with 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. It's possible to get 3 scoring chances, and I just didn't think Souths kind of played it that way, as well as the four. I was a little bit concerned by the forwards. The forwards have played very well in the semis, but out of all the sides with the possible exception of Manly, I was a little bit concerned about South's forward pack because there have been games this season when it's not turned up. It's played very well towards the back end of into the playoffs, but it was always that kind of nagging thing. South's. It's not that there's a shortfall, but they just don't quite have the same kind of horsepower that Penrith have. That's what I thought.
Well, it does beg the question: what difference Latrell Mitchell may have made had he played? I know they were talking about this on this. I mean, it's a lot of what ifs there, isn't it? And you'd have to. It would have given a bit more drive taking the ball out.
Well, look, I know the kind of there have been a few cheeky questions about whether Souths are better without Latrell or whatever, but I don't think there were I think there was more trolling by people really, because I don't think anybody seriously thinks that Souths minus Latrell are a better side, because they're not.
No.
That said, there's always the danger of Latrell. He can win you the game, and he can also blow you the game as well. And in a really a tense game like that, Latrell's always on a knife edge. So I don't think it's a given that Souths would have been better. He, like I said, he could have won the game, and he could have cost them the game. So definitely
in those last 10 minutes when they were kind of pushing to get the 2 points. Obviously, they had the Reynolds drop goal attempt, which that you kind of rushed that, but even then, they still, you're still getting chances before that where it just wasn't going to hand, was it? It was, I think it was about a minute or so near the end, and again, the ball just wouldn't sit right for them, really, would it?
Yeah, and this is the thing. Another kind of question mark that I've had against Souths has been their halfback. They've got a pair of great halves there. Don't get me wrong. They got Cody Walker. The scrum half has been in the top 3 this season. Really, you'd have to say. Certainly, so there's been some very good performances. There's been, and he's clutch with usually very clutch with drop goals, things like that. Plus, he can kick it from distance as well. But if there's one kind of thing, which, and it's not just Souths as well. Melbourne, exactly the same thing. Is you need that one guy who. I think we were having a laugh a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking to. I think I was listening to an interview with Louis McCarthy Scarsbrook, and he's saying, whenever you're playing with James Roby, you're gasping for air, you're coming to the you come into the scrum and you're exhausted or whatever, and then Roby just comes up next year and then cool as you like says, "Don't worry, lads, we're in this game. We're in this game." And I think that's the guy that they needed. They needed somebody there who was just going to say, "Calm it down, just calm it down. We're in this game. This game is ours. We can win this game." I just didn't see that person. And don't get me wrong, Cody Walker is as instinctive a player as anybody in the NRL. One of the most skillful players around. It's not a skill shortfall. It's got nothing to do with skill. It's got to do with psychology, mindsets, and knowing when you're not beat. When you're not beat, and they weren't beat. Look, 10 seconds left. Look, we saw a grand final won in the Hoots were gone in the Super League grand final, and what happened? Just a speculative kick bounced off the top of the. You can win. It takes 2 seconds, 3 seconds and there was no one there. I think they were looking around for a guy like that, and he just wasn't there. And I think, you know, I think Penrith just had the makings of that, and I think they'll get better with that over the years. Cameron Smith was the master of it. He's the master of it. You know, if he'd have been there, I think he'd be just saying, what are you all stressing about? We're in the game. We're in the game. But you wouldn't think it looking in that, going into that last 10 minutes.
So why is it then, do you think, that Penrith won? What was it that they did that enabled them to win?
Well, Penrith, they look. It's great if you've got a good forward pack. It's even better if you've got a back three that can get your forwards rolling onto the front foot. One of the reasons that St Helens have been successful this year is that they've got a back three that can get guys like, it's not necessarily like guys like Wormsley. You know, there are plenty of big props in the league or whatever. It's not just the fact that he's a big guy, it's the fact that he's got guys who are getting him a roll on where he can hit the ball hard and go forward. And that was what they were doing as well. They had guys like Toto who's getting the ball. He's getting the momentum moving so that the forwards, when they hit the line at full speed. The problem, I think, that the flip side, it just didn't work that way, you know. But the thing is, you know, if you can get it to work, it's a timing thing. And if you can get it to work, it's devastating because you can just chew up yards. And that, I thought that's what they were doing. On the flip side, I just don't think, you know, Souths are adapted to that game as well, you know. So
yeah, I mean,
the back three got them rolling, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Well, if you contrast the back three between the two, were thanks to Cleary, really, who, although I know a few people were critical of him, produced a masterful display kicking, pegged them back. And not just that, this is what I don't think people really notice the difference. It's okay saying, yeah, it's just a bomb, but the hang time that he's getting on the bombs, there's no chance of any of those back three returning the ball at all. As soon as they're getting in it, there's 2 or 3 guys on him, stopping him, and sometimes picking him up and carrying him back. I mean, we can put that to what was happening with Penrith guys. It just wasn't the same, was it?
No. Well, where do you think it was going wrong then with the Souths game plan? Because obviously they don't have the same players.
I don't think it was a problem with the game plan, mate. I think it's just that Penrith played them off the park, played the better game. They pegged them back, as you said. You know, the 3 back there, Toto, Edwards, and Crichton. I think they were all over 200 meters for Penrith. On Souths, who's the top Souths? Was it Taff? Was it? No, Paulo. Sorry, 123 meters. What Toto was 238. And Dylan Edwards, 230. The Dylan Edwards one, apparently he's been playing with a broken foot for the last 3 games. And he's still top 200 meters in all 3 of those games. Outstanding. I must admit, there was only him. I thought, well, it's between him, Toto, Cleary, and maybe Yo for the Clive Churchill, I thought. But I mean, when you look at the breakdown, what's the possession rates? 53-47 Penrith. 83% completion rate, 74% South. That's probably an indicator of where it went wrong, because I think the errors were 7, Penrith 11, only 5 penalties all game. But the tackle busts, 59 to South, just 23 to Penrith, and the line breaks are 4-2 for South. So they were doing something right. But I think when we go to the tackle busts, how many times we see 2 or 3 Penrith guys going in full force onto the Souths guys? I mean, you could see that by the Souths guys. I think only Burgess and Totola had topped 100 meters, and Burgess came off the bench. And in fairness to Burgess, I thought when he came off the bench, certainly the last 20 minutes, half an hour, I thought he was superb. Even though he was still trundling, he wasn't really jogging up, running up. They were finding it hard to keep him from making yards.
Well, look, 230 yards would be a hell of a total in a regular round game. Just in the in the week to week. So 230 yards in the final is a tremendous amount, really. And the other kind of thing that does make me kind of, it does confuse me a little bit, because I'd like to know exactly how the Australians or the NRL stats team can determine, the difference between tackle busts and line breaks, because I keep seeing these huge amounts of tackle busts, but very few line breaks.
Yeah.
And it seems counterintuitive to me that you can have a side that can have 59 tackle busts, but only 4 line breaks. Look, the scrambling defense is working well, but still, I think I'd like to know how they determine, because I don't think they're calculated the same way in Super League. You don't see that kind of huge.
No, well, a line breaks when you clean through, isn't it? Line breaks when you clean through. You can break a tackle and not be clean through. If you go back to look, if we looked at the stats, so that the line breaks, Cody Walker would be one with his try. I mean, after that, Crichton probably the other one will be one of the 2 possibly for Penrith, but I am struggling to think of clean breaks that happened. Maybe Cook got one, I think, because I thought he had a good game, considering he'd been fairly quiet in the finals. Cook, I thought he played very well for Souths and put him on the front foot. And this is one that, when we talk about where Souths lost, Bennett kind of singled this out. He didn't. He said that, Walker and Reynolds, too often they were playing in their own half. They're not, because we couldn't get on the foot. I'd love to see what the territory statistics were, because Souths were always coming out from under their own sticks. As you said, they're either picking up bombs, on their own line, or, there's 5 forced dropouts as well to none. So, so that's, you can't win a game when, as we, if you want to use the Super League analogy, with what the way Saints play a very similar game, play the game down there. It's not just the, 5 drives and they're kicking up for a mistake. It's the gradual wearing down, isn't it? The players get tired, the mistakes happen, and when you're not given the opportunity to attack, all you're doing is driving. You're just driving up, aren't you? Driving up. You don't get a chance to move out wide, or you struggle to.
Well, getting out of your half is the big thing in it, because look, you can, everybody drops the ball and everybody makes some false errors, but if you're making them in your own half, that's when you get killed, and it really is, because it's okay. It's okay that there's been a few sides. I said Saints have been one of them where I've been a little bit critical of them, because the kicking near the line hasn't been all that effective at recycling the ball. But you see, if you kick it and they pick it up on the 2-yard line, doesn't really matter, does it? Because you can have the best pack in the world. It's hard work to get to the halfway line from there, and if you can force them to cough up the ball in their own half, that's when you get killed. And I think that in a final, teams are reticent to start throwing the ball around in their own half because of what can happen. But yourself. That's ever since we moved on to the 10 meter rule. You can rack up 22 points, 24 points in 10 minutes, and the game's over. It's done. And that's what you can't afford to have. You can't afford to be going down in a final, 2 scores in a final, in a grand final, 2 scores. It's just, you're done. You're done. So, it was just how to turn that pressure, keep cranking the pressure up. And I think, Penrith just for that a little bit better, I'd say. I do think what you were saying, though, about another kind of flaw in South Side is that I think those 2 halfbacks work, but I'm not too sure that they work well with that kind of running hooker. I think you'd be better off with a guy who's a little bit more cerebral. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player, and he can be devastating when he breaks out of the ruck, but he's not. I won't call him a footballer. He's not. I don't look at him. He's not got a football brain. He's a great player. He's got great other aspects to his game, but I just don't think that the chemistry quite works.
Yeah, it's not. It's sharp now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as well what impacted as well on South is that Penrith did a great job of shutting down what's his name, Cameron Murray, the loose forward. He plays pretty much as that sort of third link man, doesn't he? Really, and they snuffed him out. I mean, the line speed from Penrith non-stop all game. They were up quick.
Yeah.
They were in the phase. They were shutting the ball out wide. There was no real options for South. I mean, Penrith, although they've excited us with some of the rugby they played this year, I mean, really, the success has been built on, that phenomenal defence, hasn't it? I mean, again, what's the yardage? Let's have a look at the average set distance, right? 44 metres for Penrith, 35 for Souths. Now, I mean, I've been looking at these, say, the last probably 5-6 weeks, and that's probably one of the biggest differences I've seen. Usually, if you're hitting 40 metres on your set 6, it's usually a good sign. Looking at the way the games have worked out, anyone not getting over 40 metres seems to struggle. Those teams that are hitting over 40 putting themselves in a good position, but I've not seen a gap as big as that. 9 metres per set. I've seen like 4 or 5, but 9 metres, I mean that, and plus then we've got the bomb defusal rate, 45% South, 78% Penrith, which again, highlights that issue that you have facing Cleary, where, well, you've seen it. His kicking is exceptional. You're catching the ball, like you said it last week. If you're not a yard away, you're on the line, and you've got no chance to get it. It was just, I mean, it was masterful.
Well, the thing is as well, if you look at the 44 meters, 44 meters doesn't seem like a lot. If you compare it to like Super League, where you might get teams that can generate maybe 60 yards on a set in Super League, especially going against some of the weak defenses. But 44, unless you're getting the ball right on your goal line, right, anything in front of that means you're kicking the ball on the halfway. If you're kicking the ball on the halfway, right, you're in with a chance of getting of recycling the ball. But if you're kicking the ball from between 20, 30 meters and the halfway, then it becomes much, much more difficult to get that ball back. You instead of kicking to recycle the ball, you're kicking for a scrum. You're kicking to try and turn them around. You're not going to recycle it. That's a massive. It's a good spot, that one, actually. That makes a huge difference between the two sides, really.
Yeah, I mean, you had the issue as well. I think there was 300. What's the contact? I think it's 300 meters with it. 1,800 run meters to 1,509. Post contact 591 to 445. I mean, again, 300 meters is a big difference. Which you could put some of that down to completion rates and not, finishing your sets. But again, you've got the 3 guys there at the back, 200 meters each, taking that ball back. And I honestly can't remember a time when Edwards was tackled behind his own line, or, well, he wasn't, obviously, because there was no dropouts, but even under pressure to do that, it just wasn't there. I mean, I think if we was to look at it, go back at now, I'd be surprised if South had maybe more than 3 or 4 sets in with 20.
You can't win that way, can you?
No.
Unless you're converting every possible opportunity, which in a regular season game is hard enough, but in a final, you're not going to win. That is just not conducive to winning. So really speaking, they were just, if you were to boil it down, it is that Penrith was starting 15 yards further forward on every set 6. And that you can't win. It's just not possible to win. No, not possible to win in that kind of situation, really.
And so after the game, I don't know if anybody saw it, but Brian Tall proposed to his girlfriend afterwards, and I think I'd have been pleased to have won. I'll be honest with you. Benji Bennett's potentially his last grand final. Of course, Adam Reynolds. It's quite sad seeing Adam Reynolds. I'm sure he's probably put a lot of blame on himself, and I don't think he should. I mean, it was a difficult conversion, and we saw Adam Dewey earlier in the season. Adam Dewey told him he wasn't clutch. He said, "You're not clutch, Reynolds. You're not clutch," and he missed. So, Adam Dewey was there. He was right. But also, even with the drop goal, I mean, he rushed the drop goal. I think they panicked a little bit there. They still, I know they still had time really to do something, set themselves up a little bit. I think overall they can be satisfied, Souths, with the season.
Yeah.
I mean, going forward, no Reynolds next year, big loss.
Yeah, and it's not really certain how they're going to really line up in those positions next year. I mean, they've got
Milford's coming, isn't he?
Yeah, the thing is, like, if Milford was coming and Bennett was staying, I think, right, yeah, I can kind of see that. But with Milford coming and Bennett leaving, I mean, look, I hope it works out for Milford. I really do. But I don't see Milford's kicking game being up there really. I mean,
he's still youngish though, isn't he? Well, mid-20s, isn't he? So, I mean, he's got a good kicking game, but when I say that, I mean, isn't he can kick well, but there's a difference between kicking well and kicking effectively, isn't there? Being able to apply a good kick, which is what Reynolds does. Great 40-20s. He's got a good boot on him, good field goal kicker, good field position kicker as well. Yeah, I'm not so sure Milford on that. I mean, there is the question. We kind of talked about this early in the season with Reynolds and not offering him the deal, but apparently they're prepared to make Cody Walker, who's the same age as Reynolds, a 3-year deal. So I don't know what that says. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is as well is, as I've said, I'm not quite sure that that kind of standoff scrum half hooker kind of triumvirate really works. Now, I'm not sure it's going to work any better by taking arguably the most natural tactician in the side out, and then putting an instinctive runner in there. It seems like there's going to be an awful lot of instincts there, and maybe not too much brains. I don't know. They might have to bring a youngster in or something. I don't know. Look, there are a lot of good kids around, so who knows? I mean, look, if he doesn't do it when he comes in next season, there's plenty, and they can roll him out and get somebody else in there, can't they? So
I know they've got some talent coming through that they're interested in, but we'll see with that, I suppose, next season, won't we? But back to Penrith. I mean, it's a big boom for Ivan Cleary. He finally gets his premiership, and he gets himself off that list of longest serving coaches without a premiership. Thank goodness. I mean, nothing but positive things to say about him. He's handled a very young team, and he's got them to consecutive grand finals.
Yeah. Look, I think it was always going to be a tough game. It was never going to be pretty. These people are kind of thinking that Penrith was just going to come in and play like the football they were doing at the start of the year. That was just totally unrealistic. I know that they must have been, really determined to kind of right the mistakes they made last year, but that still doesn't take the pressure off your shoulders.
No.
If anything, it makes the pressure even more difficult. So what they had to do is they had to find a way of managing the pressure, and then just playing without fear, but again, playing not to lose the game in the first 10 minutes like they did last year, because that's what they did. They completely cut their own throats in the last one. That was the most important thing. They couldn't afford to be giving up easy plays, easy scores early on. I think that's what they did. They had to set the stall out. It sounds easy enough to do, but when when the pressure's on you and when the expectations are there, that's when the best players really come to the fore. And I think what will happen, I think what we'll see now is, now that the pressure is off them, really speaking, I think you'll see them play a lot more fluidly now. And I think they could win another title next season. They could win more than one. They've got a really strong side. They got the confidence going into next year. It's all there for them, really.
Yeah. I mean, on
that back conversation.
On that, I mean, if we mentioned Tall, Edwards, and Yo, and I suppose we mentioned Cleary, but if we stick with Cleary, because I mean, it's one of the best, certainly, game management kicking performances I've ever seen in a big game.
Yeah. Well, look, the thing, look, he was, look, that is his game, isn't it? That is. I think it's pretty clear that his dad has instilled that in him from a very young age. He's taught him that, listen, kicking is your bread and butter. We win games from your kicking. We don't need you to be breaking tackles. We don't need you to be throwing defense splitting passes out left, right, and centre. If you can kick us around the pitch, right, first and foremost, that's all we need you to do. Now, he can do other things as well, but the thing about him is he's had the wits to kind of realise, look, I've got to be the guy, the go-to guy, when this ball needs to go up or to be sprayed around. Because Luai is not Luai's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's not nobody in that side of him.
Yeah, he's a Cody Walker to his Reynolds,
yeah. That type of kicking performance takes years of practice. You can tell he's been out with his dad, just booting out 100 balls every evening, putting them into pinpoint positions, and this is what the end result is.
I mean, he's 3 days now. He was going to have his shoulder surgery 3 days after the grand final, so he's played with this shoulder injury as well as Edwards playing with his broken foot, and. I mean, the NRL 360, what's name, Coops and Kenty and Buzz were talking about it and saying that it's one of the best performances they've seen. And, he's only 23. He's 23, and they singled out that, what's name, Johns, I think Cronk, Slater, Smith, whatever, that they'd all got NRL titles under the belt before they were 25, which Cleary is now done. And it does beg the question, because there's nobody at his level in terms of halfback performance overall. Although, we talked about him not taking the ball up this year, he has done it. Prior to the shoulder injury, he was exceptional. And there is a possibility he could rattle off another 2 or 3 here, maybe even 4.
Yeah. Well, look, we said this before, that the cornerstone of any title winning side is first and foremost your pack of forwards. You need big, powerful props and a big pack, but you can't win with inferior halfbacks. How many times you see the side with inferior halfbacks winning? It just doesn't happen, does it?
Yeah.
Good footballers rise to the fore, and like you said, I mean, who is his rival? Well, Cherry Evans was in the State of Origin. He blew him off the pitch, really. I mean, I know he kind of came back later on, but he just blew the doors off Cherry Evans, and that's just not.
There's no comparison.
There's just no comparison. No, not at all. I don't see anybody else.
No, I mean, no matter what we say, whenever Cleary is that he's not afraid to get involved. And I don't know if you saw the clip afterwards. It wasn't. I don't think they showed you in the game, but after Walker had given his interception, because it was Walker handed him off, wasn't it? He handed off Cleary, didn't he? Give him the good big don't argue when he went through for his try. And so, of course, when Walker throws the intercept, you can clearly goes. I don't know what he says to him, but Walker tries to have a go back at him, and obviously it got under his skin there. I mean, I'm not sure that's good form, to be honest with you, in a grand final, rubbing someone's nose in like that. But
listen, mate. Look, I don't think Wally Lewis had any problems rubbing people's noses in it. I can think of a lot of Australian players that have no problems rubbing your nose. Listen, it's not a problem. If you can back it up, it ain't a problem. If you can't back it up, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
he's backing it up, so good luck to him.
So going from Penrith, they're losing Matt Burton. I think is Capo. I'm not sure. I think Capo's going to the Broncos as well. So they should still be good though for finishing in the top 2 or 3. I can't see that anybody else made enough recruitment to push them out. They're going to be there or thereabouts again next year, surely.
Yeah, I think that they will be. And look, I also think that that there'll be a couple of other sides that come out of nowhere and pose them severe competition. Look, Melbourne are going to be doing that, and from if the news reports are any kind of indicator, you can tell that they're not happy about going out. So they're going to make some boss moves, and if they got to do some dirty work, they're going to do it now, get out of the way, and then get players in who think they're going to win. It's ruthless, ruthless game, But they'll be there, and a couple of other teams as well, I imagine.
Okay. Before we close up, I suppose it wouldn't be right to close up without saying a couple of words about, or a couple of sentences about the 2 guys that we're calling it today, Benji Marshall and Wayne Bennett. I mean, Benji Marshall, for me, mate, he's one of the best Kiwi players. I think there's only Stacey Jones, I think, can rival at halfback. And I was being honest with you, I'm a Benji man. I'm a Stacey Jones, but sad to say, I hope somebody comes in for him to get one more year, because I'll be sad to see him go. Yeah,
well, he says he's retired, and I've got a feeling that look, I don't think he was retiring with because there were no offers on the table. I think there were plenty of offers on the table. I just think that Benji's the type of guy that if he's not really competing for something, he doesn't want to be competing for nothing. And the other thing is, he's played the game for a long time. He's managed to get out.
Tommy Lulai's going around again.
yeah. Well, look, I think when it comes to the skill comparisons, there is no comparison. But look, it'd be nice to see if he could do a season over here in Super League, because there'd be a lot of people that would like to see him. He'd do very well for somebody, for some side.
Oh God, yeah, it'd be great at Wigan, wouldn't it?
No, it's they wouldn't know how to play with someone with skill. It's just no.
Okay, and then on our final word, really, Wayne Bennett, 5 decades of coaching. I mean, there's no argument. Bellamy may push him, but at the moment, he is the greatest rugby league coach we've probably seen, isn't he?
Yeah, well, look, it's not. If you look at rugby league, it's not just rugby league. It's football. It's American football. It's basketball. How many times have you seen top coaches? They get to a certain point and they're done. They're just done. They can't win anymore. Doesn't matter who they're with. Doesn't matter with what players they've got. They just can't do it. They get to, I'm not sure whether they get too jaded, too cynical, too behind the times, or maybe other coaches have just improved upon them. But for whatever reason, they're done, and when they're done, they're completely done. It's not that they are competing. They're not even competing. They're falling off the ladder. They're getting relegated. This, that, and the other. Bennett's done remarkably well in still being able to coach at a high level at the back end of his career. So that tells me that he's a guy that can adapt. He's not stuck in his ways. He knows what needs to be said and to which players, and he knows how to put together a championship roster that can compete. There aren't many coaches that you can say that about, or in any sport really. So credit to the guy. Really, he's a legend, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and on that note, here's a drink to Benji and Mr. Bennett. Thank you very much for this evening, Geoff.
Yep.
Thank you very much for joining us. We wish you well.
Should be seeing everybody else again.
enjoy Saturday's grand final if you're going. If you're supporting Catalan, if you're supporting Saints, all the best. Enjoy rugby league. We do. Cheerio.
It was better than the leg out. It was better than the leg out. It was better than the leg out. That's all I can say.